individual first aid kits or IFAKs or med kits or med pouches, whatever you want to call them, are really something that you, I, or anybody that's spending time in the great outdoors should be carrying with them. But are we? Is the kit that we're carrying in them correct? And are we carrying kit that is within our capabilities of actually using? If you want to take a look at the med kit that I carry, and perhaps more importantly, what I don't carry, then keep watching. If you're keen to maximise your time outdoors by improving your bushcraft and outdoor skills, then click that subscribe button, turn on all notifications, and I'll see you in my next video. Cheers. Before we actually dive into looking at the kit and equipment, there are two important things that I want to cover off very, very quickly. Firstly, in the past, many years ago, I've received some really good, high quality, in-depth, advanced medical training. At one point in time, I was trained to do things like suture people, put airways into people, chest drains, injections, things like that. So above and beyond your typical first aid type of course. That was the best part of 25 years ago. I do no longer consider myself to be suitably qualified or experienced to be trying to do those things again on people. Therefore, I do not carry that type of kit and equipment. My kit and equipment is based upon what my brain and logic tells me I'm capable of doing nowadays, not what my ego thinks I'm still capable of doing. Why do I say this? Well, I see a lot of the med kits that float around on Facebook and social media. They're floated around by, his son's there, and they're floated around by people that I know are not medics. If they've done a first aid at work course, they'd be lucky. These people are not medics. I know that. I know their backgrounds, and yet they're still carrying kit and equipment that you'd expect to see on a team medic operating in Afghanistan. Secondly, my kit is based upon a risk assessment of the risk versus the hazard. There is a risk in these woods that a light aircraft comes crashing into the woods, bursts into flames, and I sustain significant burns to both legs. That's a risk because we're close to a light airfield. That's a hazard, should I say. The risk of it happening is really quite low compared to me cutting my hand on something or taking a lump out of my finger with a knife or burning my hand on a metal panhandle or mug or a coal on the fire. Can you see what I'm talking about? There are all sorts of things that might happen to us in the woods, but what's likely to happen to us in the woods based upon what we're doing, the surrounding area and our own skill set. So that's I want to get that out of the way before we look at my med kit, because my med kit, compared to the training that I've received in the past, in the very distant past, is very basic. And I think that's a really key thing to think about when you're putting your med kit together. Don't think about what might happen, what happens in the movies, what's the worst case scenario, because there's a really good chance that what happens in the movies and the worst case scenario is unlikely to happen, and if it did, you're simply not trained or qualified or experienced to be able to deal with it anyway. So please do bear those two things in mind. Now we're going to start looking at the actual kit and equipment that I carry on my person, in my gear, or that I take out with me on the odd occasion. Keep watching. The first piece of kit that I carry with me on my person is contained in my right hand thigh/map pocket. If we just take a look in here and take it out, there we go. I carry with me a very small, less than, sort of palm-sized, a lock sack waterproof bag. Within this, I carry a few sticking plasters, elastoplasts, some local painkillers, just some paracetamol. And if I'm going out for more than a couple of days, because I'm on some medication, I take that out with me. If I'm out for more than 2 days, I take that with me as well. This is always in my pocket. I call it my cuts kit. It's more than just a cuts kit. It's got some painkiller in it. I carry this with me all the time. Even if I do not have a knife with me, even if I'm going out into the woods and do not carry a knife, which I do on some occasions, this is still in my pocket. It permanently lives there. I never leave home with these trousers on without this being in my pocket, regardless of whether I'm carrying a cutting tool. So that's the first piece of kit and equipment that I carry on me. If I'm out away for the day, I get a simple nick or a cut, or I've got a headache or something like that, I've got something to be able to self-administer myself, self-help myself on my kit. Regardless of whether I've got my rucksack with me or not, that's in my pocket. The next piece of my individual first aid kit that I carry is this. This contains more of the same that was in my pocket, more plasters, more pills, but it contains a great deal more as well. And this is actually kept in my day sack. It stays, excuse me, in the top external zip pouch. It's the easiest thing for me to get into, and it's the simplest thing for somebody else to get into and find if they need to take it out on my behalf. So that lives in my day sack. The bag that it's contained in is nothing more than a green plastic, quite a rubberized bag. They used to be army issue at some point. I don't know if they still are. And that just helps to keep the contents of this bag even drier. And of course, it could be used as some form of waterproof dressing over the top of anything else if I really wanted to. So let's leave that at the bottom there. The pouch itself, this is an RAF aircrew pouch. It's the kit that their survival kits, the aircrew survival kits, comes in. It's got a Velcro cover. I prefer Velcro covers to things like this rather than zips or toggles or buckles or anything like that, because Velcro can't really fail. It's incredibly quick to get open. If you've got gloves on, it's incredibly quick to get a hold of if you've got blood on your hands or you're wearing gloves or anything like that. So I much prefer quick access bags to be Velcro. Let's take a look what's inside here then. Now, I'm going to go through this in no particular order whatsoever. It's not packed in a certain order. It's not a proper trauma pack where things are in specific areas. Everything is just bundled into one area. That works well for me. I'm not going to reveal this in any specific treatment or order of priority of treatment order, anything like that. It just depends how it happens to come out of the bag. So I'm going to put it to one side and I'm going to reveal each thing as and when. So the first thing that pops out is a whistle. I do carry a whistle on me anyway. There it is. Can I bring that into shot? There it is, attached to my ferro rod. But I also prefer to carry a whistle at the top of this first aid pouch, just in case, whilst I'm dealing with a casualty, whilst I'm sort of talking to the casualty or anything, I can actually start blowing on that to get attention. Or if the casualty is fit and well enough, then maybe I can get them to start blowing on this, help make them feel like they're part of their recovery and part of their rescue. So a peri whistle is carried inside there. There is a, see, this is why you should check your kit. That bag there with my nitrile gloves in has split, so I need to get that replaced after this video. I've got 2 pairs of nitrile gloves in there. Digging further in, I've got a couple of different rolls of tape. Nothing specific, that's a transport tape there. And that's more of an elastoplast type tape. Moving on from the tape, I've got some low adherence, so they're sticky but not mega sticky, dressing pads there. I've got a larger one in here somewhere. There, well, no, that's not it. I've got a larger one in here somewhere, he says. There we go. So I've got a 10 by 10 centimetre and a 5 by 5 centimetre low adherence pads there. I've got some non-woven swabs there for swabbing anything out that needs to. Here I've got some Steri-Wipes, some antiseptic sterile wipes, and also a resupply of adhesive dressings, elastoplast plasters, sticking plasters, whatever you want to call them. I've got a simple bandage, 12 by 12 centimetre bandage there. Can get quite a bit of pressure on them, I find. They're quite good. Delving further in, I have a set of tweezers. some Bonjela. I must admit, other than a headache, the thing that really, really ruins my time out in the woods is if I've got an ulcer or something like that on my tongue or my inner gum or my inner lip or something like that. Really, it's a pain in the arse. Well, it's a pain in the mouth, but you know what I mean. So I carry some Bonjela there. I carry a set of pet tick tweezers there. I carry these for two reasons. One, I think they're better than the human version, if I'm really honest. And two, my dog does go out in the woods with me quite a bit. So actually, if I can repurpose that for Willow as well as myself, then why not? They're a very, very good piece of kit. I carry some Afterbite with me. This isn't much good if I've been bitten and spot it hours afterwards, but if I've immediately been bitten by something, then that's a really, really good ammonia-based treatment to place on it more or less straight away. I have some steri strips there to act in place of sutures, stitches, some Vaseline, space blanket. Stands to reason if I'm treating a casualty, then one of the things that I should be looking for is the onset of shock, regardless of what the type of casualty is. Always look out for the onset of shock, so being able to carry another silver foil blanket there is a good idea. Coupled with that, I also carry some hand warmers to go alongside that. And then the final piece of kit that's in here, and I've left this intentionally to the end, is a sachet of Burn Soothe 10 by 10 centimetre pad. That is amazing stuff. I've actually had the misfortune to use it for real. I burnt my hand about a year or so ago on a metal mug, I think, that I was picking up, and the handles had got hotter than I thought they would have. I burnt my hand. I put this on it straight away, and the cooling effect was immediate, and it stayed cool. It was brilliant. About 10 minutes later, I decided to take it off because I thought it had done its job. The burning came back almost immediately. I put the bandage, this dressing, back on it, placed a glove on top of the dressing. For the next couple of hours, kind of forgot about it altogether because the glove was helping to keep it in place. It did an amazing job. This is far more effective, I've found, than trying to run it under cold water. Good luck finding running cold water in the woods. And it's far better than just wetting a piece of cloth and placing it on your hand, because as we all know, the water evaporates very quickly and you just end up cooking your hand in the bandana. These are an amazing piece of kit, fairly cheap. I would suggest if you've not got one of these in your kit and you use fires or any form of intense heat in your outdoor activities, well worth the investment. Very good indeed. And then finally, just in the top of that pouch there, one of the flaps of the pouch, I also carry some safety pins, some dressing pins as well. Should I need to, when you use any of the bandages that are in here, I can secure it with those pins as well. So there you have an overview of the kit that I carry all the time in my day sack or Bergen or whatever it is I'm carrying. Pocket kit, yes. Pocket contents, cuts kit, yes. I also carry this in my day sack whenever I'm taking a day sack out with me. It lives in there permanently. So far we've looked at the components of the individual first aid kit that I carry on my person or on my back. Before we go and look at those aspects that I sometimes carry with me but sometimes leave at home, just do me a favour and in the comments below this, just let me know, what have you seen so far that is different to the first aid kit that you carry? Am I carrying something that you're not? Are you carrying something that I'm not? Let me know what those differences are in the comments below. So far we've looked at the kit that I always carry, either on me or in my day sack or Bergen. But I did say at the beginning of this video that there's some kit that I choose to carry with me or may leave at home, depending on what I'm planning to do or not planning to do once I get out to the woods. So let's take a look at this kit then. Firstly, I carry a military issue. I don't know if they're British military issue, they certainly didn't used to be, but an Israeli type issue emergency bandage. These are a great conforming bandage. They also have the ability through a ratchet mechanism that's inbuilt into them to place direct pressure far more easily and quickly than the old method of tying off the knot on top of the wound. Very, very good piece of kit. I tend to take that with me if I am taking an axe out into the woods, then this accompanies me if I'm taking an axe out with me. In the same vein, if I'm taking an axe out with me, I will also take this, which is a combat application tourniquet, generation 7. It's a fairly new one. I personally, even though the medical research says they're not as effective, I personally prefer the ratchet type of mechanism. I've applied both this and a ratchet type to a real casualty, and I found the ratchet to be far more effective when you have slippery hands. And let's be honest, if you're applying this, you've probably got slippery hands for one very good reason. So I'm not a fan of this, of the windlass style, but I do know from some clinical notes that have been circulated quite recently from the US military as to the efficacy of different types, it is the more effective tourniquet. So I guess I just better suck it up and go with this. Again, carried with me whenever I'm taking an axe out into the woods. And finally, and I'm kind of experimenting with this at the moment, I've recently bought this from a guy at Real First Aid, a guy called Adam Gent. Very, very clued up bloke, very clever guy, definitely knows his stuff, and he's not just sort of a medical type guy. He's got significant experience in terms of high intensity conflict areas and being outdoors as well. So a good guy to follow on various social media. I'm going to post a link to his website in the description of this video on YouTube. So if you're watching this elsewhere, go to YouTube and you find a link through to Adam's site. Got no affiliation or anything like that, but he's a good bloke doing good stuff. And I've bought this from him recently. It's an immediate aid kit. I like what's on the back of there. I think at times when when you've got a casualty in front of you, whatever your qualifications and experience, sometimes the red mist descends, the panic button gets hit, and the best of us can run around like headless chickens. I like the way that stop, think, observe plan is on the back of there. Whilst you're putting your gloves on, you can start to read through that and start to formulate a plan. It contains 2 pairs of gloves, waterproof casualty card, PermiPen, rescue shears, trauma bandages, zinc oxide tape, waterproof first aid guide. So if you take out from that the waterproof first aid card and the casualty card, I'm actually sort of carrying everything else there, or a substitute for that anyway. Nitrile gloves I've already got. Permanent pen, I carry a Sharpie in my pocket anyway. Rescue shears, I've got my knife, but clearly they're not as safe as using rescue shears. Trauma bandages, I've got one of those anyway. Zinc oxide tape, I'm carrying that. So I've got this, and I only take this out when I've got an axe. And I think I take this out, to be honest, when I've got an axe, because it's just bigger and beefier and bulkier than the smaller kit that I've got in terms of the bandages and the stuff that is in there. So the kit that you're seeing on the screen now is the kit that I choose to carry out with me when I'm taking a heftier cutting tool. And by hefty cutting tool, I'm specifically, I guess, referring to an axe. Having all the gear but no idea is not particularly useful when it comes to medical kit. So if you've not yet checked out the video that's appearing in this corner of the screen, where I talk about the importance of first aid training and first aid refresher training, then do yourself a favour and check that video out. I'll see you in my next video very shortly. Cheers, stay safe.